Well, what is happening, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? It is your boy D-WIZZLE, and today I got a movie review for you guys. Today we are talking about Wicked for Good, the much anticipated sequel to the original Wicked that came out 2 years ago now, because now we're in 2026. Yep, I'm doing some catch up. This is a movie that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I just haven't had time to get to it, but now we're here, so I'm gonna try and play some catch up with movies that I've seen in the latter half of 2025. So that's what I'm here to do. But without further ado, let's talk about Wicked for Good. So I'm a big Wizard of Oz fan. You guys already know if you guys have followed my channel. The original Wizard of Oz is one of my favorite films of all time. And of course, I've seen almost every iteration of Wizard of Oz, whatever movies and shows and stuff they tried to attempt from it. Return to Oz, Oz the Great and Powerful, Muppets Wizard of Oz. I've even seen that. Um, though Wicked obviously was something that I came late to, and this is crazy coming from me because I'm a big Broadway person. I've never seen Wicked up until the movies came out. Um, never had a chance to go see it on Broadway. Um, and hopefully I'll still be able to. I still have not seen the Broadway show. I've seen the movie, but I still haven't seen the Broadway show. So that's going to be a goal for me, hopefully in the near future. So I didn't really know what to expect from Wicked going into the first film. Just knowing that it's very, very popular and it's going to be telling the backstory of the Good Witch of the North and the Wicked Witch of the West. So that's pretty much all and of course I've heard a couple of the songs before, but actually seeing Wicked full on in movie form for the first time, that first Wicked movie I thought was absolutely great. I thought it was one of my favorite films of that year. I thought Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande was absolutely great as Alphaba and Glinda. Like it was phenomenal, and the music was great, and the set production was great. Like the Land of Oz and everything, that was really cool. Michelle Yeoh was great in it. Jeff Goldblum was great as the wizard. Yeah, I just really liked the story. I just really liked everything, including the story. I thought the story was very compelling and actually made me feel more for the Wicked Witch of the West, which I didn't think that I would. Even though you could technically count this as like an Elseworld story to the Wizard of Oz, it's not really supposed to like line up 100% with the original Wizard of Oz, so that's something I also have to keep in mind. But even knowing that, I actually appreciated how they were telling the backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West and actually making me see her in a different light. So, of course, we know that they split Wicked into two parts because there's so much story to tell, so that they wouldn't be able to put into one movie. And also hearing behind the scenes that they wanted to make this this Wicked movie production the same length as the actual Broadway show, which I thought that was a nice little touch they were trying to do there. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I honestly, if we just had part one, I thought it had a natural conclusion to where like if that was the only movie we gotten, I would be satisfied for the most part. Like, cause you pretty much know where the story could go, cause like after this point, this is where we start getting into the actual like events of the Wizard of Oz with Dorothy and everybody. So okay, I didn't really need to see more, but of course I will definitely go see more because I'm invested in this world. I'm invested in Alphaba and Glinda's development and stuff like that. So I guess I will be curious to see how the stuff starts to tie in and where their friendship starts to dwindle and how the everything came to be. How did Alphaba actually become wicked? Actually seeing the events there. So obviously I was excited. However, going into it, I heard some skepticism from people that have seen the Broadway show and actually read the novels that this is actually based off of too. There's actually novels of Wicked too. But I'm hearing that the second half of the Broadway show, at least, they heard that was pretty weak compared to the first part. So and I'm hearing that the music is not as memorable, and there's some stuff with the story that's not as strong as the first part. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, hopefully hopefully it won't be that bad, because like regardless if if this is not going to be as strong as the first movie, and if you have Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande in it, like I'm sure I'm still going to enjoy it to some extent. Like I'm okay if this is not going to be as good as part one. I'm sure they're still going to go out their way to make a good movie, and I'm sure they are aware of the issues that the second half of the Broadway show has, and they're going to try and do some like adaptation to make it feel a little bit better, Um, and we'll see about the songs because I don't know the songs in the second part. Like I've heard like one or two from the second part, but it's like seeing what other songs they're gonna put in there. We'll see. Even though I also heard that they were adding new songs into this second part, which I'm like, okay, I'm 50-50 about that because whenever they do add new songs to a, a musical movie adaptation, it's really hit or miss. So we'll see what happens there. But still, let's see where it goes. Another thing I want to talk about, why are they so afraid to call this movie Wicked Part 2? They have to call this Wicked for Good. Is like, is there really a stigma with part one and part twos now? Like, is that what we're doing now? Like, people are afraid to call stuff part one and part twos. Like, you already know that, these movies are going to be split. So it's like, why don't you just, like, embrace it? But I digress. Anyway, sitting down and watching this, I was very excited. I saw this opening weekend. And overall, I was pretty disappointed. Um, yeah, I was very let down with Wicked Part 2. Um, Pretty much what people were telling me about, their concerns, a lot of them really came into fruition watching this movie. Yeah, I did not love this. I don't think this is awful. This is not a horrible movie. I wouldn't even I'm borderlining if I'm saying that this is good. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, like I don't feel the magic as much as I did with part 1. Um and there's actual some character motivations in here that wasn't really consistent with part 1. And yeah, overall the pacing of it didn't feel as good um as part 1, and it's strange to say that because the first movie was like, what was it, 2 hours and 40 minutes around there, and this was actually shorter than part 1, but this felt slower than part 1. I don't understand how they did that, but yeah, there was, I don't know, just from someone that is going into this, blind as far as not knowing where the story's going. Like, me personally, I just expected something better when it comes to this, especially because I know about the story of the Wizard of Oz, and I don't know. I don't know if it's just expectations I was putting onto this movie or the expectations that the movie set overall, but it's just like it did. It just felt underwhelming as far as where the characters ended up by the end of the movie. It just felt underwhelming. Probably the biggest thing that I was let down with was how Alphaba was portrayed. You know, and I'll say this before I go any further. It's going to be hard for me to um separate my love for the original Wizard of Oz and taking Wicked for how it is, because they're so intertwined. Especially when you get to the actual Dorothy stuff. I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to that as well. But for Alphaba, like, I appreciate starting out that we see her as not an evil person. Like, you actually feel sympathy for her, and she, the prejudice that's against, that's put onto her, and like her feeling like a freak. Like, I actually felt for Alphaba in part 1, you know, but what I was really interested in seeing was what made her turn wicked. You know, what were the events leading up to when she actually becomes the evil person that we know. And this is where I'm talking about it's going to be hard for me to separate my love for Wizard of Oz, because this is an Elseworld story technically, and so this version of the story is telling you that Alphaba is not as wicked as the original Wizard of Oz is telling you. That was all propaganda, and it's like they're making you believe that Alphaba is more wicked than what she actually is. Like, I understand that, but there's certain character traits that Alphaba is keeping from the original Wizard of Oz that's making it seem like she still could become that wicked and evil person. You know, because in the original movie, like there was some scary like moments that she had, you know? Like she still was like when she was conjuring up spells, or like when she's talking to certain people when she's angry, or like, you know, whenever she's trying to intimidate somebody, she still had those essence of the wicked witch. So it's like it's making it seem like she's going to be turned into that wicked witch of the West that just so happened to be put in a bad situation. You know, I feel like you could have your cake and eat it too, where we could still feel bad for Alphaba, but then also be scared of her by the time we get to the end. And I needed more intensity. I needed more like more of that scary nature that I know that Alphaba has harnessed within her. Sorry, that was my phone. Um, but yeah, that was probably the biggest disappointment with me, because the Wicked Witch is like probably one of the most iconic villains in movie history, you know? And like this could really elevate her as a character, you know, like seeing her descent into madness. Like that's what I really want to see from her, but I we didn't really get that. And then moving on to Glinda, I don't like the like most of her drive is either her trying to actually be a witch, or the love triangle that she has with Prince Fiera. I think that's his name. Like this whole love triangle with her and Fiero and Alphaba, like I didn't care to see that. Like I didn't feel like it was very well developed, to be honest, with in part two. Like they were planting seeds in part one, and I was hoping, okay, they'll flesh that out more in part two and make it make more sense. And once again, I don't feel like I'm a fan of love triangles in general when it comes to movies and shows, because they just always feel half baked, and you're not, it feels like they're forcing a lot of it. A lot of it really just feels forced. And you know what? I think I'm coming to the realization that I don't like the creative choice of Glinda not being a witch. I don't think I like that. Because I feel like the stakes weren't really elevated with her not having witch powers, and like I feel like her struggle with that was getting in the way of other story beats in the movie, you know? Like I think it would have been cool for Alphaba to, if she actually is going to start out not knowing any abilities, it would have been nice for her to actually learn to conjure up spells by herself. Maybe even Alphaba could teach her to do some actual stuff, and then she actually becomes a witch herself. And then when it comes to the actual confrontations that we have between Alphaba and Glinda, like that would actually be more creative. That actually would be more suspenseful. That they both know how to do witch powers and stuff like that. It could be like an Obi-Wan Anakin situation, you know, that Obi-Wan teaches Anakin everything that he knows. Like it could be a similar thing with that, but they don't do that. And then it makes the it makes the stuff with Dorothy later like feel more artificial. And maybe that was the intention of the story. Like it's not everything that you thought it was, which okay, but the story overall just feels underwhelming because of that. And then like even the stuff with Michelle Yeoh's character, Madame Morrible, like I could have used more of that. Like obviously she's made to be the main antagonist of this story, even though she's hiding it, and she's doing under she's doing hidden like tactics to make the propaganda against Alphaba and stuff like that. So she's doing all this stuff behind the scenes, which is good, but I needed like an actual confrontation between Alphaba and Morrible. Once again, let's do a magic fight, since she's probably the most powerful witch in Oz at the moment, and then you have uh Alphaba that also is very powerful. That would have been cool to see a magic fight between them, like a final confrontation there. But even that was underwhelming. It felt like she was an afterthought by the time we got to the end of the movie. The stuff with Jeff Goldblum as the wizard, I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I think they tried to make it too personal when it came to the wizard and Alphaba. Like, I get what they're going for, and like I was going with it at first, but when you see the reveal with the wizard in this, like I don't like how interconnected the upbringing of Alphaba and the wizard was. Like, it was so intertwined. I don't know how to feel about that. I'm very split about that. Um and then probably the biggest disappointment for me in this movie was when we started getting into the stuff with Dorothy and the Lion and Tin Man and Scarecrow. They actually were interweaving that stuff into this movie, and that was the thing I was excited to see the most. How was the Dorothy stuff going to tie into the stuff with Alphaba and Glinda? How was that going to play out? And I was I was really disappointed when it came to that. Um I don't want to give everything away for people that haven't seen it, but just like the way that they were portraying, this is not a spoiler either because they show them in the trailer and stuff like that. The way they were implementing the Tin Man and Scarecrow and the Lion into the stuff with Glinda and Alphaba, very clunky, very very clunky. Um, Cowardly Lion just felt thrown in there. Um, I don't understand what they were doing with that. The Scarecrow and Tin Man was even worse. Like I borderline hated what they did with the Tin Man. I hated it. Hated it. I don't want to spoil what it is, but just like they do something with the Tin Man that I think was completely against his character. Completely against it. And it doesn't line up with the events that happened in The Wizard of Oz. And then the Scarecrow stuff, like I'll say it has to do with the love triangle, which once again that doesn't make any sense because if anyone should be involved in the love triangle, it should be the Tin Man, but it was something else completely. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And then also with Alphaba's sister, Nessa Rose, who eventually becomes the Wicked Witch of the East in the original story, that stuff was they didn't do anything with that. They didn't. They were pretty much forcing stuff where that could line up with her becoming the Wicked Witch of the East, but not really. That was just thrown together as well. So I did not like that at all. Um, and then the stuff with Dorothy, I I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Now I say this, and I know there's gonna be people that's about to say the reason why they are so clunky with the Dorothy stuff is because of MGM. Because MGM and Warner Brothers, who did the original Wizard of Oz, they did a whole bunch of copyrights and protection with the original Wizard of Oz to the point where if other studios try to do other versions of Wizard of Oz that are anyway similar to what they did with the original movie, that they will get fined and they will get, all that stuff. So Universal, I say all this criticism acknowledging that Universal had a lot of obstacles trying to implement anything from the original movie. So like it's so bad. Like guys, like for people that don't know, you don't know how ridiculous the protection and rights issues that the original Wizard of Oz has. MGM copyrighted the look of Dorothy from the original movie, the way that like where the how the hair is and the pigtails to the color of her dress in the original movie. They can't use the ruby red slippers. Like like that's how tedious the protection issues were for that original movie. So I acknowledge that there's not much that Universal could do for certain aspects of it, but judging the product that we have, knowing the restrictions that they have, it still ended up being very underwhelming for me. We never see Dorothy's face full out. I only remember them calling her Dorothy in the movie, and she's not even really a character in this film. Like you don't see her interact with Alphaba or Glinda. So what would have been cool was like seeing how Dorothy reacts to everything going on. Like knowing the context that we have with Alphaba, like seeing that she's not that evil of a person, she's just put in bad circumstances. But Dorothy doesn't know all of her backstory. It would have been cool to see how does Dorothy react to what Alphaba does to her, capturing her or threatening her life and all that stuff. It would have been cool just to see that dynamic, knowing all the context of the backstory that you have from both versions of Wizard of Oz. It will make the story more complex that way. And also seeing the interactions with her and Glinda, that would have been cool too. Seeing everything that you know about Glinda, how does that change the context of how the events of Wizard of Oz play out? And to not see that at all, and them just avoiding that completely, like it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't. Like I don't know, man. It was really hard for me to separate the stuff from Wizard of Oz because they were trying to implement that into the story still. So it's not like I could just leave that on its own, you know? So that really messed up my enjoyment of this movie. And then, yeah, people were right. The music in this was not as memorable as it was in the first movie. There's literally two musical numbers in here that I actually really liked and actually remember, but even those two aren't as good as the majority of the music in part one. Like the two are that I liked were No Good Deed Goes Unpunished. So that was them trying to, you know, that was them trying to have something similar to um defying gravity. Like that was their that was their way of following it up. And like I really like that song, but I'm sorry, it does not hold a candle to defying gravity. It doesn't. um and then For Good, which obviously what the movie's named after, For Good, that was a nice, nice little calming song. And like, that was beautiful. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo still bring it when it comes to the singing. So that was a nice calming ballad. But again, it's not as memorable as the songs in the first movie. And I can't even tell you the names of the other songs in the film. I think the one original song that they added was Glinda singing with the animals, and that was a throwaway song. I'm gonna be honest with you. That didn't really like do much for me. Um, but yeah, man, I was disappointed in this. I really was. Like just to see where everything ended off, and seeing where it eventually leads with the original Wizard of Oz. I just expected a lot more from this. I don't know, man. Like I was so let down. I was so let down. Especially, I was excited to see the Broadway show. I'm still excited to see the Broadway show. I'm still want to go see it, but just knowing where the story ends up, my expectations are now lowered a little bit. If this is exactly how the Broadway show is, then I know what to expect going in when I actually see the Broadway show, you know. And I know there's people that, that actually like that it was very close to the Broadway show. Like there was even people in the theater that I was in that actually was emotional. I actually heard and saw a couple people cry, and people and I hear people react and cheer and stuff like that. So and people were clapping at the end, you know. So there are diehard Wicked fans that actually liked what they did with part two. And if you guys are one of those people, then I don't want to take anything away from you, you know. So, but for me, I I it didn't get me there. It didn't. Not like the first film did. It really disappoints me to say that because I was so excited for this, guys. I really was. But I will still say that the performances are really good, even though the writing was not as great. Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, all of them were really good. But yeah, it just left a lot to be desired. That's all I could say about it. So I will give Wicked for Good a C plus. That's probably the best I can give it right now. It's an above average film, but I don't know if it's a movie that I want to revisit again. Like I would much rather revisit the first movie over and over again because I love it so much. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. What did you guys think about Wicked for Good? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How does it compare to part one? How does it compare to the other adaptations of Wizard of Oz? Um, do you like how close it was to the Broadway show? Did you want to see adaptation from it? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. If you guys enjoy this review, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified of future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Wicked fans, and I'll catch you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. No good deed goes unpunished.